Jonathan Macri, Knicks Film School. It could be the first title since the 1970s. Are you excited?
I am excited. Not as excited as I will be, hopefully. I say will instead of would. Will be when the Knicks are at the precipice of a real NBA championship. But you know what? The NBA Cup, it counts for something, right? Everybody seems to be excited about it. So, yes, sure. Why not? Let's get excited.
I'm actually excited for this matchup because, yes, it's the New York Knicks, but then they're playing against the most box office guy in the league. How are you feeling about it? It has to be exciting, like this matchup in particular.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we were all kind of anticipating that if the Knicks beat the Magic, that the Thunder would be waiting, just because the Thunder never seem to lose. But there was nothing fluky about that game, and there's been nothing fluky about how the Spurs have been playing without Wembanyama. So now you add him to this team that is playing with all kinds of confidence, with all of these great perimeter players who are seemingly all shooting the lights out of the ball. I think it's going to be a pretty good test. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Despite the presence of Wembanyama and guys like Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. But yeah, man, I'm excited. If they could topple this team playing, you want to talk about a team playing with house money, look no further than the Spurs. So yeah, I think this would be a pretty quality win if the Knicks could manage to get this one.
So when you're playing against a guy like Wemby and there's no guys like Wemby, what's the game plan? What do you do? What are your thoughts on that?
So it's really interesting because the whole thing with Mike Brown this year, as opposed to last year when Tom Thibodeau, always had Mikal Bridges at the point of attack, and if it was a bigger wing, it would be OG Anunoby. This year, he's been really trying as much as possible to utilize those guys in an off-ball capacity, which is why you see Mikal Bridges. I think he's still leading the league in stocks, or he's like very close to it. OG Anunoby, when he's been in, they got him back about a week ago. His ability to get in the passing lanes and disrupt things from a help position is second to none among perimeter players in the league. So it'll be really interesting to see whether Mike Brown tries to junk it up and stick a 6'4" pit bull in Josh Hart on Wembanyama. Who knows? Maybe he starts Karl-Anthony Towns on Wembanyama, and that's if Wembanyama starts, which is another interesting wrinkle. Is Wembanyama coming off the bench again or not? We'll see. I would imagine that we're going to get a little bit of everything. I imagine Towns is going to get a shot. I think Mitch will get a shot. I'm sure OG Anunoby will get a shot if the game is close in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I think you throw everything at the guy and just try to be as physical as possible and challenge him to either make the shots or make the right passes to beat you.
It feels like Josh Hart has been the X factor for this season. When I look at Josh Hart's jump shot, it kind of breaks my basketball brain, and he goes in and out of shooting the ball well, like he did it in Portland. He shot it great over there, came here, didn't shoot it great, then he shoots it great again. I feel like whatever you want to call it, flow, energy transfer, the way you look at a jump shot, something doesn't look right, but this season it's been going in, except last game. Do you think his jump shot is sustainable? Because if it's not, I always feel like there's so many more problems for the coaches to figure things out. Like you have to deal with Mitch and you have to deal with Josh, and then you have to deal with the defense thing with Jalen Brunson. What are your thoughts on Josh Hart?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll mention, and I'm just Googling his name to make sure I don't get it wrong, the Knicks did hire a shooting coach.
Okay.
Apparently somewhat at the insistence of Josh Hart, who wanted to know kind of whether they're going to be able to
is he
help
working
out.
on Mitch's free throws? Is that shooting coach?
I not enough, I think would be my answer. But yeah, no, Peter Patton, who's been in the league for a while, he's apparently had a nice impact on Josh. Josh is for Josh, it's a chicken or the egg thing. Does the confidence come from the jump shot, or does the jump shot come from his confidence? Because he is, for as much as he is, the ultimate energy guy, he is also such an above the neck player in that if he is feeling good about himself and feeling good about his game, he's unstoppable. He plays like an all-star, and he has been playing like an all-star for the better part of a month, but you never know when the other shoe is going to drop. And look, right now he's shooting the ball well, not only from behind the arc, but you look at his overall effective field goal percentage, it's close to 60. He's hitting a lot of shots from floater range, and that is as big a part. His ability, because teams do run him off the line occasionally. He does get put in positions where he can penetrate the defense, and then his ability to get up that 14 or 12 or 10-foot floater, it's a big weapon for the Knicks. So, look, they need him, But you're absolutely right, because once the jump shot goes, and I'm sure he's going to go into a slump at some point, it creates a whole host of dicey questions, because teams are going to start guarding them a certain way. Right now, teams who try to guard them, by just plopping a center over on Josh and having that guy help into the paint, those teams are running into problems because he's usually making him pay one way or the other.
So I feel like he's the X factor for this season. Do you feel like he's the X factor previewing this game going up against the Spurs in the NBA Cup championship?
I don't know, only because Karl-Anthony Towns exists. And for me, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be the X factor in every Knick game that I watch from now until he is no longer on the team. Because I think I shouldn't say reminded, this guy's been All-NBA and, whatever it is, 4-time All-Star, probably going to be an All-Star again. Nobody needs to be reminded of his talents. But given the struggles that he occasionally has had, not only this season but last season, against really physical defenses, and I don't know that there's a more physical defense out there than the Orlando Magic, it was great to see, I'll put it that way, Karl-Anthony Towns go off for whatever heck he went off for, like 25 or 20-something points on, I think it was like 11 or 12 shots. When he is feeling it, and he was feeling it on Saturday night, there's no one in the league who can stop him. And, maybe the one guy does exist in San Antonio, but hey, look, if the Spurs have to put Wemby on Cat to neutralize what Towns' offensive impact is, that's a gigantic win for the Knicks, because that means Wemby can't be helping, elsewhere. And the Knicks have a lot of guys that could beat you right now because, look, it's a top-heavy team, but their top guys are healthy with the exception of Deuce McBride, and they will miss him. He's probably not going to play in this game. But, that just means that, look, that's one less guy keeping an eye out on Jalen Brunson. And the way Brunson is playing right now, I mean, he went for 40 the other night. I wouldn't be surprised if he went for 50. Considering he went for 60 in a game against Wemby and the Spurs, I think it was 2 years ago. So he could do it.
Staying on Cat, we're more than a quarter through the season. How would you grade Cat's season this year?
Overall, I would probably give it, for, given his standards, and his standards are lofty, I would probably give it a B-, B to a B-, and that's a combination of his impact on the team as a whole has been great as always. You look at their offensive on-offs with him versus without him, and even in game, when he's not shooting it, and he was kind of slumping for up until really the last week or two, him being out there is still just such a boon. And that's a testament to him, because the guy that often is replacing him, although he's not always healthy, is Mitchell Robinson, and Mitchell Robinson adds his own dimension to the offense with all of his offensive rebounds. But just, it's tough for me to go too much higher on Cat, given that, I think it was as of a week ago, he was shooting like 33, 34% from deep. It's a little higher now. What I will say with Towns, and this is the best compliment I can give him, and it is also the most important compliment. His defense this year, I think, has taken a step up. He has taken a step forward. There have been much fewer, or far fewer, of those games where you watch him defend and you're like, we got to get him off the court. He is single-handedly killing us just by being out there.
Except the clips of Mikal yelling at him. Did you see those clips?
No, listen, I'm killing him, and I'm killing him just like Mikal's killing him, because to me, and it's not only Mikal, Josh Hart has been vocal, a couple times, because when you see that stuff out on the court, you could only imagine what it's like in the locker room, and you wonder, what is this guy doing, or what is this guy not doing that is eliciting that response from his teammates? What I will say, and this is my go-to thing with Cat, the mistakes from him are so much louder than anything good that he does.
Well,
and because
partly it's because he's so talented. That's part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But because the mistakes are so loud and so in your face, and often, frankly, just so silly, you talk about the offensive fouls, which they've plagued him for a decade. They tend to stick in your mind more, and you tend to remember stuff like that. Like me and you were talking, you brought up him getting chewed out by Bridges on the court. That stuff happens. By and large, I think the defense has been really good this year. Or for him, it's been really good.
Should anybody be untouchable in a Giannis trade?
You're asking me as a Knicks fan, or you're asking me as an objective NBA observer? because there's two different answers. As a Knicks fan, as someone who has rooted for this team since I was 10 years old, there's no world where I want to watch Jalen Brunson ever play for another basketball team. That's just me. Objectively, could I sit here and make an argument that a trade sending out Jalen Brunson and whatever for Giannis Antetokounmpo and whatever makes the Knicks a better basketball team? I could probably craft an argument just because I used to be a lawyer and I could argue pretty much anything. What I will say, though, is there a player, is there a player who hasn't won a championship with his current team that means more to the culture, the fabric, the foundation, the locker room, everything within the organization than Jalen Brunson means to the Knicks? That means you put aside Curry. That means you put aside Jokic. I don't know that there is anyone else in that same category. And so for me, even though you could make a basketball argument that Jalen Brunson should not be untouchable in a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, I actually even think, objectively speaking, I don't think you could include Brunson in a Giannis trade. It doesn't matter if it's even, I know the money doesn't work, but even if theoretically you could do it 1-for-1, I genuinely don't believe that the trade-off would be worth it.
Would you trade Brunson for Wemby?
Well, that's a different animal. I think Wemby has more trade value right now than any NBA player since LeBron James was in his 20s, probably. And even as I say that, like the prospect of him becoming only, and back me up on this, I know you know NBA history as well as I do, other than Kareem, has there been a guy who is like over 7'2" who has held up on avoiding major injuries for the entirety of his career?
That's interesting.
Of that caliber of player, a superstar player who's going to demand that level of usage. Now, obviously, I'm not.
I feel like, watching him in Summer League, I felt like he is the new Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Just the way he takes care of his body, modern medicine. Things are different. And
maybe he is. Maybe he is the next Kareem, and certainly he has the talent to do what Kareem did once upon a time, just on offense, to say nothing of the defensive end. Look, I think 28 teams. I don't think the guy in Denver is going anywhere. I think 28 teams would probably trade their best guy for Victor Wembanyama. I don't think there's any shame in saying that.
Do you think the Knicks will make a trade? Not for Giannis, for anybody.
Yeah. No, I mean, I say this as the Bucks lost by 45 points, I think, to the Nets tonight. I forget what the final score. They may have called the game before the final buzzer, the way it was going. No, I think they will make some sort of a trade. I think they have. It hasn't worked out with Yabusele. It doesn't seem like he had some comments to a French outlet recently that just seems like this was not a match made in heaven. They also have Pacome Dadier's salary that they could move. Tyler Kolek has been playing well lately. He played very, very well against the Magic in the semifinal game. But if they wanted to use him in a deal, they could also do that. Look, they have Deuce is out now. They have him coming back. They'll have Shamet coming back, but they are still very small. And the most interesting question to me personally ahead of the trade deadline, I think you could make an argument that you could tell me Leon Rose is looking for a big man with Mitchell Robinson's health questions. You could tell me he's looking for a more reliable backup point guard. Tyler Kolek, still young, unproven. And you could absolutely tell me, and this is the answer I hope you would give, that Leon Rose is looking for a wing. Because I just think against some of these jumbo teams, and I know they took care of business against Orlando, they have not yet played Detroit this year, but against some of these bigger squads, they're putting out lineups now when Jalen Brunson isn't on the court with Tyler Kolek, Jordan Clarkson, and Deuce McBride, and Josh Hart at the 4. I just don't know how that's going to... And look, I know playoffs, rotations get tighter, the whole thing, but it feels like they need one more guy who is, taller than 6'6". I'm not saying those guys are easy to come by. If they're available at the deadline, there's probably going to be a list of a waiting line of 15 teams that want to get him, to say nothing of making the salaries work. But if there was a way that they could obtain such a player at the deadline, that's the guy that I would want them to go after. But my answer is yes, I do think that they will make a trade before the deadline.
That's interesting because Josh and Mikal and OG are having such a great season, even though OG's been hurt a little bit. They've been great this year.
No, it's I don't want to like everyone those three guys.
No, I
keep-
know. No, for sure, keep
yeah.
them. But I just, even add on to them, it's interesting you say that because it does feel like they need more guard play and obviously backup bigs, especially from a defensive point of view when Cat's your big.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like Mitch has not really been Mitch defensively this year. Now look, this team was built that they need their top 7 guys to be healthy, meaning the 5 starters, Mitch and Deuce. If one of those guys goes down, I don't think they are going to win a 7-game series against a top team. Now, maybe they don't face a top team until they get to the NBA Finals, if they should get that far. So I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but look, I love all 3 of their wings. And all 3 of their wings, if they're healthy, they're all capable of playing upwards of 40 minutes a night. I would just love to have one more guy with a little bit of size off my bench, someone who could give me, even if it's 12 to 15 minutes a night. A guy that I don't know if what the cost is going to be. I don't know how available he is, but Sadiq Bey in New Orleans is someone that I kind of have my eye on as maybe he's available for, the Knicks don't have a whole lot of draft capital right now, but, Nova guy, so he would fit in that respect. But yeah, someone like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's had 50-point games in the NBA. That guy's a good player. He's always been a good player since Villanova, for sure. He would definitely help this team. Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah. Alvarado, the other one is Jose Alvarado, is a guy who's the Knicks beat guys have been kind of touting as someone that they might look for. The nice thing about Alvarado is obviously he's 6 feet tall, but he's just such a gnat that you don't feel his size as much as you might feel the size of some other players.
Mike Brown, I mean, I love the way this team is playing in transition. They're obviously playing a little bit defensively in a different kind of way than Tibbs does. Do you feel like he's not getting enough credit? How do you feel like you would grade this season for him? Because I think when they were struggling in the beginning, it was like Mike Brown, and now they're playing well, and you don't hear Mike Brown as much,
No, he you know what he should get credit for? He should get credit for his humility. And I mean that without even being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because Mike Brown came in here with a very clear idea of what he wanted to do. He wanted to push the pace. He wanted the offense to have a lot more movement than it did last year. And he did not want Josh Hart to be the starter. And I think that was pretty clear from really the get-go when he started. Like the very first preseason game, he had Mitch out there as the starter. Josh Hart got hurt in the preseason, but even after Josh Hart was healthy, he stuck with the Mitchell Robinson starting lineup. And yet he told the story just a week ago of how his assistant coaches, he kind of pulled them like, hey, what do you think we should do with our starting lineup? And he was telling a story of something that happened weeks prior. And they were like, yeah, I think we should go with Josh Hart. And he listened to them. So there's that. There's the fact that you watch their offense now, and it is much more of a combination of what they have done the last several years with what he wanted to come in and do. And I think that's the right balance. But like, look, a lot of coaches could have been very pigheaded and stubborn and just said, look, no, it's my way or the highway. We're going to keep doing this until we get it right. I don't think that's Mike Brown's way of operating. I think and I think the last thing I'll say on that one is that, this is a veteran team. And for him to not listen to them would be frankly a little silly, because the nice thing about this Knicks locker room is, yeah, there are guys who might care about their statistics, but this is a group that wants to win. Like they know this is their best chance to make the NBA Finals. So I think given the fact that everybody is kind of on the same page, Mike Brown hearing all the different voices around him, I think he's done a phenomenal job.
Who's the best non-foreign basketball player in the NBA?
I mean, look, it's a 3-man conversation, right? Between Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, and Jalen Brunson at this point.
No Cade?
Not for me, no, not yet. Win a playoff series. 2, get a pull-up 3-pointer that people are going to guard. Until you do those 2 things, you are not in the same conversation as a guy in Anthony Edwards, who has made consecutive conference finals as the best player on his team, as Curry still at this age, and obviously as Brunson. And I don't need to sit up here and blow smoke up Jalen Brunson's ass. Everybody knows what he does. All you have to do is, just literally turn on any playoff game pretty much from the last 2 years. and you will see a guy who's probably going for 35 or 40 points and just absolutely putting a team on his back. He is as unguardable an isolation scorer as there is in the league. No, I think it comes down to those three. Edwards, obviously, you're getting the defense, whereas you're not getting it with those other guys. But Edwards still shows a few too many flashes of like, I'm not quite ready to be the guy that has the ball in my hands, making decisions in the last 5 minutes of a close game against a great team, every night of a 7-game series. He will eventually get there. I don't know that he is there right now. So for me, it is between Steph and Jalen Brunson. I don't know that there was a wrong answer between those two, but look, I'm going to go with my guy. I'll go with Jalen.
With that said, do you believe if the Knicks can win a championship, Jalen Brunson could become the face of the NBA?
No. Victor Wembanyama is the face of the NBA. He should
already.
He will.
You think so?
I think he should be. No. Let me take a step back. Jokic should be the face of the NBA.
Well, you just said about Cade, you have to win a playoff series, right?
This is true. And Wemby hasn't even gotten to the playoffs. But I wasn't saying Cade was going to be the face of the NBA. I think Wembanyama will be the face of the NBA for the next decade. Jokic is the face of the NBA right now.
Jokic is by far the best player to me, but I don't think he's the face either. I don't know.
But again, what does the face of the NBA mean?
Yeah,
the face of the NBA to me is there. You know what? There is a global connotation to that question. There is an implication that because the NBA is a worldwide sport and people watch it and watch highlights of it and the whole thing from all corners of the globe in the way that they do not football, baseball, hockey, whatever other sport you want to say. Obviously, soccer is different, but we're talking about the major American sports. That like it is like, all right, it doesn't matter if you're talking about a kid in China or a kid in Italy or a kid in Kenya or a kid in Australia or a kid in freaking Antarctica. When they think NBA, what are they going to think of? The truth of the honest truth. I'm watching him. He's on my TV right now playing the Suns. It's still probably LeBron.
I agree.
If you're looking for like the objectively correct answer, LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. He's going to be the face of the NBA until he retires, despite the fact that he's probably the third best player on his own team. But like when I think of who is like as someone who does what you do, is creates content and like really thinks about the sport deeply, Jokic is the face of the NBA for me today. Wemby will be for the next decade or for however long he has his prime.
Do you believe every generation gets better?
Yes. I don't even think that's in dispute. I know Stan Van Gundy got some heat for his recent comments saying that, like, all the best players that have ever played league have played in the last 20 years. I think that's probably a little bit much. I think if you drop Michael into the league today, you'd probably find the way to be successful.
Great's always going to be great, for sure.
Greats are always going to be great. I think, look, I think the conversations about, like, what would Bob Cousy be in the league today are just silly. Because they don't really have a point to me. That's to me. They don't have a point to me. I know they're interesting conversations to some people. But yes, I think just from a skill perspective, each generation gets better. I'm actually even trying to think of like what would be the argument against that. And I struggle to think of what the argument would be.
So is there also an argument, if every generation gets better, which I do believe it does, that Jokic is the greatest player ever?
If you're saying, is he the greatest player, again, if you're looking at it in a vacuum and you're saying, let's see, even that one, I can't get there, and here's why. And it's because Michael didn't play 50 years ago. Michael played 30 years ago.
And also, to your point, the gap between Michael and the next best player was larger than the gap between Jokic and the next best player.
I am always going to view guys within their eras. I am always going to view guys relative to their eras. I think Jokic his career's not over yet. He needs to accomplish a few more things. But given the fact that for the better part of a half a decade now, everybody has pretty comfortably been like, yeah, this guy is the best guy. And the gap is not getting smaller. The gap since he won his first MVP is getting larger, seemingly between him and everybody else. Although Shea is closing the gap. And the numbers, I mean, a lot of people have been talking.
Do you really think so?
Well, I think there gets to a point where even as a guard, and a guard is always going to have a deficiency in this conversation against the center, who can just physically do things that a guard cannot. I do think there gets to a point where your efficiency is so over the top in all of the different areas that it has to at least become a conversation, especially since he is a positive defender. And now how positive a defender is, again, it's a different conversation. We're getting way off track. I think by the time all is said and done, I think Jokic has a shot to be considered one of the 5 greatest players to ever live. Because again, even if you are just judging him relative to his peers, there's a chance that we get to another. We're 2-3 years down the road from here until it's like, okay, Wemby has overtaken him. And if that's the case, if we could sit here and look at this guy and be like, yeah, for an 8-year stretch, he was undoubtedly the best guy. Like, there's just not a ton of guys in the history of the league that we could say that.
We're around the same age as you said before in one of our debates, right? Do you feel your peers are constantly complaining about the modern NBA? Because my friends are. They're constantly complaining. They're like, all these guys are averaging 30 points. It's easy to score in the NBA. Look at Grayson Allen's travel. Like they're just like pointing at, and I really like the NBA. I don't know. Do you hear that as well, or is that just me?
I think it depends. I think, I hear from a ton of fans. I'm very lucky and fortunate in the fact that the Knicks Film School community is so robust, and there's so many different ways that I could get in touch with all of the different facets of the community. Mm-hmm. And so I have, old heads who think way more modern about the sport than people who are younger than me. I do think people complain a fair bit, but I also don't know that I would say that they complain about where the league is at so much about specific aspects of the league. Like, I do think people just think the refereeing is terrible. And I think you could actually draw a through line from the refs to a lot of the complaints about that people have.
Do you agree with them on that front?
I don't think the refereeing is as good as it could be or probably should be. Like, I don't know what a foul is in the NBA, that's for sure. I mean, I kind of sort of know it. It's like, it's like the Supreme Court argument for what's pornography. I know it when I see it. I kind of know it when I see it, but the fact that there is no hard and fast rule, that I could discern at least. And I think that's so much of an issue. The fact, the inconsistency with how games are called from game to game, from quarter to quarter, I think is a problem. And then, the way the game is called can kind of change how teams play and how teams approach a game. Like, if a team is allowed to be very physical on the interior, well, whoever is playing that team is probably going to be forced to take a lot more threes than they might otherwise do. And then you're going to get complaints about, like, oh, players today take too many threes. There's the skill of getting on the interior is not what it once was. So I don't know. That's the only big one, but I think the sport is in a great place, and I think the to your point before, the best players that have ever played are probably playing right now.
All right, last thing. Fact or fiction? The Knicks will win the East this year.
I'll say fact. And that's tough because if I'm really good, just going straight math, I would say fiction, because do I think that the Knicks have a better than 50% chance to win the East? Meaning, if you gave me even money odds, would I bet money on the Knicks to win the East? I would not. Because I think there are enough things that could go wrong in the Eastern Conference. I think the Knicks' depth is enough of a concern for me, where if they lost an OG Anunoby for a couple of games in the wrong series, or a Mitchell Robinson, or God forbid, a Jalen Brunson, you go all the way down the line. They can't really afford to lose anybody if they're going to win a tough series. And the fact that you could make arguments for a healthy Orlando, a Detroit, I know what happened today, but I'm still going to say, much to my chagrin, a Cleveland. Even who knows where Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be playing on whatever it is, February 10th or February 15th.
Could be Miami.
Please don't say that out loud. That's my biggest. I'm petrified of the fact that Miami could trade for Giannis. But the Heat. So I give the Knicks comfortably the best odds of any of those teams. In my mind, they have probably a 40% chance or so to win the East, which is why, again, I'll say fact. But if you're saying to me right now, the Knicks come out of the East, or I could take the field. If it's like, all right, you got to bet your kid's college fund on one of those two, I would probably bet the field, even though I wouldn't like it.
And you could see this team winning a championship?
I mean, if you make the finals, anything can happen. A sprained ankle, right? To the wrong guy at the wrong time. That's what is always said.
I mean, yeah, look at last season. I mean, the Pacers probably be the champions right now. He was shooting that ball first half.
I'm happy they're not. I'll just say that. No, do I think that they're capable? Yes, I think they're capable. I think I want to see. I think they need to make a trade to adjust the depth a little bit. I think they need to be healthy, and I think the offense needs to, for as good as the offense is, and they have the second best offense in the league, which is pretty good, right? I think their offense is still right now at like an 8.5 out of 10 based on where it could be. I think they might need to get to that. Like the Pacers last year and during the playoffs, they reached a 10 out of 10 for them. What is that the best offense we've ever seen? No, but for them, they were at a 10 out of 10, and that was unguardable. I think the Knicks have a 10 out of 10 in them. And the defense is always going to be what the defense is going to be. They just always are going to need to just be good enough on defense. And I think they can be good enough on defense. And I think last thing I'll say, for as much as a lot of Knicks fans this year have complained at times during Knicks games about, oh my God, they're giving up a million threes. These guys are veterans. They know it's November, it's December, it's going to be January. It's a long season. They have another gear that they are not turning on yet, and they will turn it on when it counts. So believe it or not, I'm actually not too worried about the defense. If they win a championship, it is going to be because their offense gets to a point where they are able to get a good shot pretty much every possession against any defense, and that includes Oklahoma City. Can they get there? I think they're capable of it. I don't know that I would bet on it.
Jonathan Macri, thanks for taking the time. Where can we find you? On social media and everywhere else?
Where can't you find me? JC Macri, NBA. That's all. That's my social media handle. You could Knicks Film School, doing all kinds of stuff over there. And then I have a new pod where we talk about the NBA at large called NBA Takedown. We go live usually 12 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Going to be putting out some more short form stuff, taking out inspiration from you on that channel moving forward. But yeah, like I'm always doing something talking about the NBA. I love this sport way too much to spend my time talking about anything else. And yeah.
Do you believe what you do as an art?
Goodness gracious. Way to end on that question.
I know this could be a whole other podcast, but
it can be.
Yeah.
It's impossible for me to say yes without sounding like a pretentious asshole. So I'm going to say no. I do think that there is an artistry to saying words in front of a microphone.
I believe it's 100% art. It might come very easy to you because you've been talking for so long and you've been debating for so long and you've been watching the Knicks so long. But you feel like you're just doing what you love, It is, again, I only have one skill in life, and it is the ability to talk in a way that makes people think that I know what I am talking about. Very thankful for that skill. Sure. I mean, look, there is an artistry to anything. There's an artistry to, keeping the books, and filling out a balance sheet. But no, I mean, I do up until this one. I don't consider myself an artist. The guys that we watch, that we cover, that we love to talk about, they are artists. We talk about them for a living, but we're very lucky to be able to do that. You're an artist to me, Jonathan. You're an artist to me.
I very much appreciate that combo.
Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate you, and talk soon.
Absolutely, man. It would be a pleasure.